Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. So today I'm kicking off a little bit of a new video series and going into a off-road vehicle type of project. And the reason is for the last almost a year I've been getting into ORV, off-road vehicle trails with my friends, and even bought a little side-by-side to take through the woods, but my side-by-side only sits two people, and my little family, my wife, my daughter, that's three of us. So to go out in the woods as a family, our little side-by-side just doesn't really do it. So we want to get into a a little bit larger vehicle. Nothing that is extreme for off-road, but something where at least the three of us can go out together and join our friends and have some fun. Leave me a comment what you think about this project. I know it's going to have some limited capabilities, but I do think it's going to be a lot of fun. But let me know what you think. Let me know if there's anything that you'd like to see in this project, or things that you think it can't do that I should try. But without telling you what the project is, a couple reasons I picked it. A big one is because I have one. It's old. It's got about 150,000 miles, a little bit more, so it's near the end of its life as far as being a reliable family vehicle. But it still has a lot of life in it for fun projects like this. At the same time, though, if something happens and it gets smashed or damaged, that's okay, because it's really pretty much at its end of life. The second reason is if you go out to U-Pull yards, which I like to go to get some of my used car parts pretty regularly, these are in the U-Pull yards in the dozens in a lot of cases. So if I break things, in fact, for this all-wheel drive conversion project, it's a matter of walking on the yard and just pulling the pieces that I need, and they're pretty cheap. I'll tell you, all the pieces that you see in this video, I haven't kept real close track, but maybe between $500 to $600 worth of parts for my all-wheel drive conversion that I'm doing, converting front-wheel drive to all-wheel drive as part of this project. So easy to find, cheap parts, and I have one. So I think it'd be a fun video series. Again, let me know what you think, and enjoy this video. Alright everyone, so this is the new project. So this is my 2008 Escape, or my wife's 2008 Escape, and it's 2021 right now. This is a 13-year-old car. It's got 150-something thousand miles on it. A lot of these are ending up in the junkyards right now. But it is a really good car, and the only thing that I don't like about it is that it's front-wheel drive. And we live in Michigan, we get a decent amount of snow here. All-wheel drive would be really nice, but front-wheel drive works okay too. But considering that it's an older vehicle, I want to bring some new life into it, because it is still a good vehicle, and make it all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, and kind of transition from being a family vehicle on the road to being a family vehicle off the road. And the plan is for it to still be a family vehicle on the road as well, unless it gets beat up or something. But if it does, it's old enough where it's probably time to replace it as a family vehicle anyhow, although we do use it pretty low mileage on the road. So anyhow, a little bit about this car. Again, it's a 2008. It's the V6 model, so it has a 3-liter dual overhead cam V6. It's a little over 200 horsepower from the factory, but I'm sure it's down because it's got a lot of miles on it. This is a limited model, so it does have like leather interior and heated seats and automatic climate control. You can see on top it's got a sunroof. It is a really good, comfortable car. And another thing on the side here, you can see on the wheel wells, I did the math, and this is about a 29-inch tire. And there's a little bit of room on the wheel wells. I could probably put a 31 on here without even lifting it and make it fit. So, we'll see. We'll see how it does, on the trails, just with with its stock tires. But I have, at this point, accumulated a lot of parts for the conversion. My plan is, right now it's December, I think December 5 today. So over the next few weeks, maybe even by the end of the month, I'll have this mostly converted to four-wheel drive. And as you'll see in this video, as I begin to collect parts and see how the four-wheel drive version of the Escape works, and that's another good point, is that this is a front-wheel drive car, but you could buy this exact same model when it was new in four-wheel drive, and that was actually pretty popular. So all the pieces to make it four-wheel drive exist, and for the most part, bolt into the car. So, it's a little bit more complicated than just bolting them in, but it's not something that's impossible, and, a lot easier than taking something that was never offered in four-wheel drive and trying to make it four-wheel drive. This one, all the parts basically exist. So with all that, I hope you enjoy this video. A lot of parts gathering and preparing as I begin work to transition this to four-wheel drive. So thanks for watching. Please hit that subscribe button, because there's going to be a few more videos coming in this series, and we'll definitely get this out on the trail soon as well. So today I am heading to the junkyard, the U-Pull yard, to get some parts for the Escape. I've been thinking for a while about converting it to all-wheel drive, since it's only a front-wheel drive Escape, and I think that conversion would not actually be terribly difficult, especially if I can get the parts from used parts from a junkyard. So this morning I found an Escape there a couple of weeks ago when I was there. This morning I'm going to go and get started on pulling parts off to prepare to go onto my Escape and make it all-wheel drive. So let's head to the junkyard and see if we can get the parts we need. Alright, so I'm in the junkyard here, and I found an Escape. This is actually a 2012, whereas mine's a 2009, but it looks pretty clean as far as the all-wheel drive components go. So I'm going to try to get all of this out. Hopefully nothing breaks, but you know how my luck goes. I'm especially worried about this, the lower control arm to the frame. I've had bad luck with that in the past, so hopefully this one comes loose. But my plan is to drop this whole rear subframe out and basically take all of it with me. So we'll see if I can get that, and hopefully nothing goes wrong here. Okay, well, I've got one of the control arms out here. Let's see, so you can see got the I guess these are kind of control arms too, but so these connect to the subframe, but I got this piece out. There you go. And last time I took one of these off a car, you saw that this alignment camber piece didn't want to come out, and I cut through that because I wanted to save the body. But in this case, I cut the body out instead to remove the control arm. And I'm not going to say that that was any easier or faster, because it was really kind of a nightmare. You can see I really butchered that, but it came out, and the control arm is okay, so I can just push that bushing out, push a new bushing in, and install it on my car. So let's get the other side apart. Then once I have the other control arm out, we can basically drop the subframe and take all these pieces home. All right, everyone, so I've been here for a couple hours, maybe 2 hours or so, and I managed to get basically the whole rear suspension from this Escape into a wheelbarrow. So my back's a little bit sore, but it's time to get this wheelbarrow up front, see how much it's going to cost me, and get this loaded up and back home to the garage. Alright, so back at the junkyard again today. This is actually my third trip to the junkyard for Escape parts. So the first time I got pretty much everything for the rear axle and the subframe and the knuckles or trailing arms. Then I came back and got the PTU that bolts to the transmission, essentially the transfer case for a front-wheel drive car. And when I pulled that off, I found that the transmission is actually a little bit different. There's an extra drive gear to drive the PTU on the transmission for four-wheel drive Escapes, which totally makes sense. But because of that, now I'm back here pulling the transmission out. So basically the plan is to pull the engine and transmission out together. Got my brother here helping me with this. Once we get the engine and transmission out, we can separate the transmission on the ground, probably throw it in a wheelbarrow and take it out of here. So we're most of the way there. We just got engine mount here, engine mount down there, engine mount on the side. I already took the bolt out for the engine mount on the rear of the engine. And at that point, we'll basically hook it up to the engine crane and probably just sawzall through anything that is still attached to the car. So in a few minutes here, I think we'll have it out. Hey everybody, so I've been doing some research and making a few trips to the local junkyard to pick up some parts as I learn about what all really is involved, what's different between a front-wheel drive Escape and an all-wheel drive Escape. Obviously the front-wheel drive vehicle already drives the front wheel, so I've got, of course the engine, transmission, axle shafts, everything. But for the rear of the vehicle then, as you can see back here, some of the parts I've collected. In the middle there is the rear differential, and really this is actually a Dana 28 differential that comes in the older Escapes. So that's pretty cool because there's a little bit of aftermarket support. It's a really small diff, so it's not popular, but there's a little bit of aftermarket support for that. You can even get a locker for it. But so you've got the rear differential here. And on that, the way that this works, where you can, switch between front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive, and really the car does it for you for the most part, there's a little electric solenoid on the front of it. So, like, this part here is the rear differential, and this part, so this is the input that the drive shaft connects to. But then this part is the electronic clutch part where you basically give voltage to it, and it connects the drive shaft here to the axle shafts coming out of the differential. So I've got the rear diff here. Something else that I learned is, so obviously the rear differential would bolt into the subframe, and the subframe in the front wheel drive vehicle doesn't have all of the connection points on it. So I had to also pull the rear subframe out of a vehicle in the junkyard. But once you have the rear differential out, pulling the subframe is just a few more bolts. It's not really that big of a deal. So I've got both of the axle shafts that go with that rear diff. Now, over here, I pulled one of the control arms or trailing arms. One thing that's different is the hub. You need to be able to put the axle shaft into it. You can see that that's splined in there. So I pulled the rear trailing arms. I'm going to put new bearings in those, put the hubs back in. But that's how obviously your wheel would go on these bolts here. So that's how you connect the axle to the tires. So then that goes to the differential. I've got the drive shaft here. And then up front, let's see. So, here's the drive shaft. Then I've got the front PTU here. Let me turn this around. So this is the part that actually connects to the output of the transmission. So usually on the transmission, you just have the axle shaft that goes to the tire. And on the right side, on the Escape, it's really long. So the PTU connects in the same location that the axle shaft comes out of. It does not connect to the axle shaft output, but it connects in the same location. So then the transmission turns the PTU spins the drive shaft connects to the rear diff, and that spins the axles. Now, one more thing that I learned while I took this apart, and I always wondered about this, how does a front-wheel drive vehicle actually drive the rear tires? If the PTU connects to the axle, output location on the transmission, why wouldn't the other front tire just be able to, if it's spinning, how do you transfer any power, through the PTU, through the other axle shaft? Is it really sending any power to the rear tires under some circumstances? So what I learned here, let me turn my camera around again, and I'll show you, I'll demonstrate here. So I'm going to put this axle shaft through the PTU like it would be on the vehicle. So it's just going to go through there. So see if I can do this without messing up seals too bad. So you can see here, there's splines on the PTU where that engages a sprocket on the transmission, and there's separate splines on the axle shaft. But the axle turns completely independently from that PTU. And if I spin the PTU output here, you can see that it turns that sprocket, but it doesn't, well, I guess the actual shaft is kind of turning. Let me hold it with my foot because I'm running out of hands here. So I'll hold that with my foot, turn this output shaft, and you can see that that drive sprocket on the PTU is turning without the axle shaft turning. So that raises a new issue of, if I have a front wheel drive vehicle, does my car have that extra drive sprocket for the PTU, or does it not? And it turns out that it does not. So this escalated further, and I have here on my bench another transmission now. I went back to the junkyard. My brother came out with me one day, and we pulled the transmission out of another Escape. So this is it's called a CD4E. It's a 4-speed transmission. And let me maneuver in here. So you can see here again, here's the drive gear that drives the PTU. And if you look a little bit deeper inside there, you can see where that axle shaft would spline into for the actual differential inside of the transmission. So that's how you can drive front tires and simultaneously always be transferring power through the PTU. Then when it needs to, the car will lock in the rear diff and transfer power to a tire. So pretty cool how that works, but that's a lot of parts I need to install in the car now. So the next things that I'm doing, let's see, right now, what is today? It's beginning of December. It's, I think, maybe December 3rd today. So now what I'm working on is cleaning up some of these parts. I ordered a rebuild kit for the transmission because this is a junkyard transmission I pulled out of a vehicle. I don't know how good it is. I do know that the front wheel drive Escape I have right now drives totally fine and shifts good. So I really don't want to put a transmission in there that potentially has a problem. So I'm going to rebuild that transmission before I put it in there. I'm going through and putting some new bearings in these trailing arms, replacing seals on the PTU and on the differential, and getting all those parts pretty much prepped. My goal is that by the end of the month, maybe around Christmas time, I'll be able to pull the car in the garage and start swapping parts in there. Hopefully, I get at least the new transmission. That's going to be the biggest project. Get the all-wheel drive transmission installed into the car. So thank you for watching. Stay tuned. I'm gonna have a couple videos coming up here of preparing some of these parts, rebuilding the transmission, getting things prepped, and by the end of the month here, hopefully, we'll get that transmission in the car and get this project really underway in that conversion. So thank you for watching, and stay tuned for some more action.